records it.
It's live.
Okay. And
Yeah,
then what
we're
do I need to do to stop it?
If you can just go to outputs here,
Mm-hmm.
and then just unclick this and it'll stop. I'll come back in and check.
Okay.
Doris, this is recording as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So, wait, you can see it.
Oh yeah, there I am.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah, your screen.
Okay, great.
Cool,
Thank
great
you.
book.
Yeah, Robin just recommended it to
Yeah.
me. She said there was a hard time finding it. Did you have a hard time finding it?
I went on Amazon and I found it for like $3.93. The shipping costs more than the book. You can find them. You can find them.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, very good. Well, I didn't know how many people would show up today, so it doesn't matter. We're the ones that are here, so I certainly appreciate you guys taking the time to be here. I do know a few of you. Steve, I know. I met you yesterday. Your name again?
Anu.
Anu?
Muslima.
Yes.
Muslima.
Come on. Say it again. I'm sorry.
Muslima.
Muslima. Okay, great. And you are Frida. Okay, great. Awesome. Well, my name is Terrance Mayo. I wrote it up here. Here's my phone number, my email address as well. So essentially today what I wanted to talk to you guys about is 7 steps to list more for sale by owners. I'll talk a little bit about where I came from and when I started with Keller Williams. I came on board midway through the year. I was working in corporate America, didn't like corporate America anymore and wanted to do something different. So I decided to venture out and work in real estate. I had an agent that's in this office meet me at my house one day and brought the red book. Does anybody know what the red book is?
Yes.
The MREA book, right? So he gave it to me and said, read it and let me know what you think. So once I read that, I was like, I think I can do this. So when I first joined here, he kind of, I won't say he took me under his wing, but he basically said, I said, okay, who should I be calling? What should I be doing? He says, well, why don't you start out by calling for sell by owners? And I was like, what am I going to say? I don't know what to say. He's like, well, why don't you sit down with me and we'll make a quick phone call. So just by watching him pick up the phone, dial a for sale by owner, and have a conversation, which was very easy, and the guy even agreed to meet. And he said, you know what, I'm going to have one of my real estate partners come and meet you. So he's like, hey, I just set you an appointment, why don't you go on the meeting? Now, I went on the meeting not really knowing what I was going to say or do, yet he kind of coached me through it. So right then and there, I learned pretty quick that calling for sale by owners is not a hard thing. You pick up the phone, you have a conversation, you ask them some questions, you schedule an appointment, and then you get in front of them. Once you get in front of them, you dig deeper, and then you learn how you can help them, right? So this conversation today is mostly about for sale by owners. For sale by owners are sellers who have basically raised their hand and they're waving out into the world and they're saying, hey, I want to sell my house. Look at me, I'm over here, I want to sell my house. Okay? Expireds, they have a hand raised in the air and they have a second hand raised in the air saying, hey, I'm over here, I want to sell my house and I'm willing to pay a commission. Okay? So for sale by owners, obviously their thought is they want to sell it themselves to save a commission, yet they want to sell their house. Expireds want to sell their house and they're willing to pay a commission. So think of these conversations that we're having today as equal parts for sell by owners and expireds, okay? So I went on that first meeting, had a conversation with the guy, didn't really know what I was saying, yet it felt somewhat comfortable that I was having an appointment and I felt like I was working. Hello, come on in. Did not get that appointment, and it never really turned into anything, but what that told me was that this was not hard. It wasn't a hard thing. The guy didn't hang up on him. The guy didn't yell and scream over the phone, don't talk to me. He didn't curse at him. He was like, yeah, sure, no problem, I'm interested in selling. If you want to come take a look, come on by. So that showed me right there that the best way for me to ramp up my business was to get on the phone, get over the fear of having someone hang up on me, and just start talking to people and asking for appointments. So that's what I did. So my first sale in Keller Williams, my first sale as a realtor, was a for sale by owner.
Wow.
The listing that I called, I found it on Zillow, the listing I called, it was listed at $1.5 million. How many of you would pick up the phone today and call a $1.5 million listing? Awesome. You're not afraid. Good, because I wasn't either. I was like, so what? Let me just, what's he going to do? Say no? It's not going to hurt me because I don't have any business right now anyway, right? So what if I call him and he says no? So I called the guy and was able to schedule an appointment for the same day, went on the appointment, and just started talking. This particular gentleman was a caregiver for an elderly woman who just moved out of this 1920s, I'll call it a mini mansion in Druid Hills off of Ponce de Leon. As it turns out, this house used to be one of the Rich's brothers' house. So anybody remember Rich's department store?
Yeah.
So there were three brothers that with the last name Rich, and I want to say two of them were instrumental in developing the department store. So this was one of their houses for one of those Rich's brothers. Ornate French provincial style home, hadn't been updated, but you could tell it had a ton of character and it was in a great part of town. So I met with the gentleman, learned the story, and he said, you know what, I've been dealing with this for about a year. This house used to be cluttered, I just got it cleaned out, and I just want to sell it. And all I said was, well, why don't you let me help you do that? That's what I do. I'm a full-time agent. I will help you sell this house so you don't have to worry. And you could just almost see his body language shift and relax when I said that. And he was like, well, let's do it. And so he's like, how much do you charge? And I said, well, that's a great question. I said, my commission rate is flexible. It varies. It depends on what kind of services you want me to have for you. I said, what makes you think this is a $1.5 million house? And he said, you know what, I'm just guessing. I have no idea what it's worth really. I said, well, why don't we do this? I'll list it for 7% and I will pay for the appraisal. He's like, let's do it. So my very first listing in real estate, potentially $1 million listing, wasn't quite sure yet. We handshaked and we signed it and we said to be determined on the list price, but I signed it for 7%.
Yeah, like, I thought,
My very first deal, I just asked the question and I said, hey, I'll do it for 7%, but I'll pay for the appraisal because we don't know what this home is worth. So by having an appraiser come in, tell you what it's worth, then we will know what the market value is. I said, we know it's going to be worth something because this is a great house and a great location. It's going to need a lot of work, and it did. It was livable, but it was barely livable. So I brought in D.S. Murphy. I brought in D.S. Murphy is an appraisal company here in Atlanta. One of their appraisers came and gave him an appraisal of $750,000. And so he was disappointed, yet I said, look, it's a good thing we didn't list it at 1.5 because it never would have appraised, right? We would have had to find a cash buyer, and a cash buyer may not have been interested in paying that. So what we decided to do, I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we list it for $800,000, which is slightly more than the appraised value, and let's see what happens. Okay? Let's figure it out. So we listed the property as it is, and we had multiple offers within 24 hours. We had two cash buyers that could not wait to put their hands on this property. So they bid it up, and we ended up going under contract for $830,000 and closing within 7 days. So my very first transaction in real estate wasn't for sale by owner. It wasn't a 1.5, but it ended up being $830,000 at 7%. So I got 4% off of that on my very first transaction. And I'm thinking, man, this is too easy. Now granted, that's probably the easiest transaction I've ever done in real estate. Ever since, they've all been a little bit more difficult. So the point was, I was like, there's a niche here and it seems comfortable and easy for me. So I've always stuck to for sale by owners. So today I wanted to just share that story with you. And so it ended up, my first full year in real estate, I sold 20 houses. I grossed just under $7 million my first year in total sales volume, and my GCI was $192,000.
Wow.
So I was fortunate enough to win Rookie of the Year my very first year. And it was all based on a lot of for sale by owner work. Now, granted, that $840,000 helped get to that number, yet I've been doing them ever since. Okay, so I wanted to share with you guys some tips today on how you can put for sale by owners into your listing strategy. Okay, so we're going to do 7 steps to list more FSBOs. So step number 1, before you start anything, before you agree that you're going to run a marathon, before you agree that you're going to go onto a diet, before you agree that you're going to go to the gym consistently to build muscle mass, what's one thing you have to do?
Mindset.
Mindset. What'd you say?
Commit.
Commit. Exactly. So number 1, my number 1 step in listing more FSBOs, and I'm going to write these up here for you, is to commit to being consistent. Okay, I'm going to call it CBCD. Commit to being consistent. What do you think the D stands for?
Daily?
Daily. Every single day. Every single day you have to commit to being consistent. If you're going to run a marathon, you can't expect to run 26.2 miles the very first day, right? If you run 100 yards, is that progress? That's progress because you're starting, you're doing something. The next day you might run 200 yards. And then the third day you might end up running a half a mile. And as you progress every single day, what you did yesterday becomes the norm. So what I'm challenging each and every one of you is to commit to being consistent every single day by working FSBOs and expires. I challenge myself every single day to be in the office by 8:30 and to lead generate until 11 o'clock. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, depending on how many appointments I'm able to make during that time. Yet, be consistent in your lead generation to go out and find business, whether it's for sale by owners or expires or your sphere of influence or door knocking or whatever it is. Commit to being consistent daily and going out for business. Okay? Every day you've got to commit, right? So on day 1, you're here, you lead generate. Hey, Sammy.
Hey, Terrance, how you doing?
Hopefully I can share some good knowledge for you, and feel free to chime in if you have something to add. So we're just talking about committing to being consistent every single day. That's step number 1 in 7 steps to list more FSBOs. So on a timeline of being a realtor, do you think you're the best in day 1 or the day you decide to retire? Obviously, you're going to learn a ton in between here, right? You're going to learn some stuff, and then you're going to come back down. You're going to learn some more, and then you come back down. So by the end, your learning curve is so high. It's the same thing by committing it every single day. You've got to start to get better. Okay? One book I'm reading right now talks about playing it safe. So if picking up the phone challenges you, that's a good thing, because it helps you grow, right? If you're scared of something, is it better to face your fear or to run away from it?
Face it.
Better to face it. So if picking up the phone and calling somebody is scary, that's okay. They can't hurt you over the phone. They can say things and you can hang up and say thank you but no thank you and call the next person. Robin, the very first day I took Ignite, she put SW on the board 4 times. I'll just write this here real quick. She put SW up on the board 4 times. So the SW, some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. She may have shared that with you before, but that struck me as really important, because if you're expecting the first phone call you make to be an $800,000 FSBO at 7%, it's not going to happen. Maybe. Yet, you call enough people, you're going to find the gold in those numbers, right? So, you've got to commit to being consistent daily to lead generating, period, whether it's FSBOs, expires, or whatever. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is you got to practice your scripts. All right? You have to know what to say. You have to know how to say it. You're calling people to say it too. And we talked about being consistent by calling enough people, right? So you have to know what to say. So what I did yesterday is I printed out my FSBO script, the one that I found online several years ago. I don't even know if this guy is out there anymore. It's similar to a bold script. Yeah, feel free to just pass those around. If you've ever taken bold or even ignite, you probably found one here or there, a for sale by owner script. So this is the one that I found that sounded like me. Okay, for me, and this may be different for each and every one of you, but I don't mind sharing this with you. I even have notes that I've taken and put on here as well, so you'll see what these are. You have another one? Here we go. 2 more. One for you, and one for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. So this is my FSBO script. And the other thing that I'll say about FSBO scripts is you have to practice every single day. So I would find a partner and practice them with. Okay? This guy used to say before he came into the office, he would read through this as quickly as possible just to commit the words to memory. And so I always have this in front of me, but I never read it word for word and on the phone. I've internalized the script enough to know what to say and when to say it based on the things that I'm hearing from the seller. If he objects to something, then I know where to go into the script and ask the next question to dig a little bit deeper. Well, tell me more about that, okay? So number 2 is practice the scripts. How many of you have a script partner in here? Sammy does. Anu has one. Is it every day or once a week or
I
what?
just started.
You just started.
I
Okay.
just started. Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm in the process of coordinating
Sure.
right now. So, Florida.
So my suggestion is practice every single day. Find someone or a couple of people. It's okay if you have 5 practice partners. And that's probably a good thing because guess what? They're going to do something different than the day before that somebody else said. And I oftentimes found when I called for sell by owners and I felt stumped, especially in the early part of my career, and I didn't really know how to respond to something, guess what my practice partner got the next day? They got that objection that I couldn't figure out how to handle. And I gave it to my practice partner in the script play and role play the next day to see how they would respond. And so you learn from each other. It's like iron sharpens iron. You know, people that are doing it and practicing it get better at it quickly. So your learning curve grows faster. So my first year, as I said, I was Rookie of the Year. My first year, there was my script partner, my role play partner, she was runner-up. We were $10,000 off in GCI. So it was the 2 of us that practiced with each other, that made each other better, and we were number 1 and number 2 Rookies of the Year. So I don't know that I would have been able to be as good as I was if it wasn't for her.
What was the GCI?
192.
I was Rookie of the Year too. So
Awesome.
Let's see what you're at.
What was yours?
You mean 192?
GCI.
So just under 6 million.
Like 7 million.
Yeah, I was a little less.
What? Tell us.
I mean,
Tell us the.
it is what it is, and it fell where it may, yet I would not have been as good if it wasn't for my practice partner, my role play partner, because we challenged each other, and we did a lot of for sale by owners. So let's just read through this a little bit, and, or maybe, can I ask a volunteer in the room to be the seller? Anybody want to volunteer to be the seller? Okay, great. Sammy. Ring, ring.
Good morning.
Yeah, hi. I'm calling about the house for sale. Are you the owner?
Yes, I am.
Well, great. Well, thanks for taking my call. My name is Terrance Mayo. I'm with Keller Williams, Peachtree Road. I wanted to let you know I work with a lot of buyers and sellers in your area, and I was calling to see what I can do to help you.
A buyer would be great, Terrance.
You know what? I'm glad you said that because right now I'm working with about 12 buyers in my portfolio. So I work with buyers every single day and I try to call and try to find houses for my buyers. Another question I have for you is, where are you moving to? Because I have listings in the area. Would you be interested in one of my listings?
Actually, I'm moving to Miami.
Oh, okay, great. What's taking you to Miami?
Just a job reload.
Awesome, awesome. So, moving to Miami for a job, how long do you have before you have to be there? When do you plan on moving?
Well, I'd like to be there before Christmas time for sure.
Okay, so the next 4, 5, 6 months at the latest?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Are they helping you with the reload or is this all on you to be able to handle?
It's on me.
Okay, well fantastic, well once again, my name is Terrance, and may I get yours?
Sammy.
Okay, great, Sammy. So, moving to Miami, have to be there the next 3 or 4 months. So would you say that your motivation to sell is on a scale of 1 to 10? How would you rate your motivation to sell right now?
Probably around a 6.
Okay. What would it take to get it to a 10? I'm just curious.
A few more months going by without an offer.
Okay, gotcha. So a little patience right now is what I'm hearing, but if you don't get another offer, you don't get an offer in the next couple months, your motivation to sell is going to be higher. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I see you have it listed for $425,000. If you don't mind me asking, how did you determine that price?
Oh, we have some comps in the area that support it.
Okay. So when you say some comps, did you obtain those through a realtor, or how did you obtain those comps?
It was through a realtor. I've had somebody out before.
Oh, okay, great. So when you do decide to, so let me ask you this: why did you decide to market the home yourself instead of hiring a professional agent like myself to help you?
Well, just because this neighborhood sells itself, essentially. I feel like this price will attract a buyer eventually.
Okay. Is it about the commissions, or is it just you feel like you can do it on your own?
Oh, well, it's all about the money, Terrance. So
Okay.
I'm
All right.
trying to
That's
save a
what
little
I
money.
figured. I was waiting for you to say it was about the commission. Totally understand. So if you were to hire an agent, would you use the person that gave you comps, or are you open to interviewing agents for the job?
I'm definitely open.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. So, if you were to hire an agent, what would you be looking for in that perfect agent to help you list?
Communication and aggressiveness is great.
Okay, so tell me more about what you mean by aggressiveness.
Well, I would expect someone to keep me in the loop in regards to the sale, open houses, pricing it correctly to sell, and negotiating top dollar. That's what I would hope.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say, Sammy, is that communication is really important to you.
Absolutely.
So, are you looking for daily communication, weekly communication? You know, what's important to you about that?
Weekly is fine, just to keep me in the loop in regards to feedback, showings,
Okay, so
whatever we need to do to get the house sold, really.
Sure, totally makes sense. Well, let me ask you this: have you heard about the strategies that I use to get homes sold?
No, Terrance, this is the first time we're talking.
Well, that's exactly why I suggest we meet. I'm going to be in your neighborhood this afternoon, and I've got 2 appointments open on my calendar. So would 4 o'clock work for you, or would 6 o'clock be best?
I don't see any harm in that. 6 o'clock would be fine.
Okay, well, great. Well, perfect. Well, I'd love to just, first of all, take a look at what you have to offer, see if it's a good fit for some of the buyers that we're working with. Yet, at the same time, I want to show you what I can do to help you net more money and put that in your pocket at the end of the day. Does that sound good?
Or that works for me.
Perfect. Sammy, what's your best email address?
SammyHadid@kw.com.
Okay, great. So, Sammy, what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you a quick email confirmation of our appointment at 6 p.m. I will also send you some information about me and some things that I can do to help you prepare your home for sale. So look out for that email, and then I look forward to meeting you this afternoon at 6 p.m., okay?
Sure.
Great. You have any other questions for me before we go?
I think it's all been covered.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sammy. I appreciate it, and we'll see you at 6.
Excellent.
Perfect. So I didn't read these verbatim, yet you can probably go through and check off and see which ones that I've asked, right? There may only be a couple that I didn't ask that may or may not pertain to him, right? Like, if he had someone, why did you choose that agent? Different things. So, I mean, but I did go through that. Now, that was probably about a 7 or 8 minute phone conversation, right? But I got to the point. Any ahas from that conversation? Any things that stood out to you that caught your attention?
I think that you're so polished. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, your presentation is so polished.
Well, it's practice, right? So the first day, trust me, the first day I called did not sound like that. There was probably a lot of ums and ahs and not really sure how to respond. Yet the more I practiced, the better I got at it.
Yeah.
Do you say "let me ask you" a lot when you're?
Yeah. That's a good one.
Sometimes. Did I do that?
Yeah, I always tell people not to say that. Is why I was asking.
It could be something that I'm
Really,
unconscious
let me
about.
ask you if you don't mind me asking. You
Mhm.
know, instead of just asking.
Sure.
I mean, I do it sometimes too. Don't
Right.
misunderstand me, but I tell people not to.
I think it's a preference. I mean, it may matter, it may not matter. I've never had anybody say don't do it, but I'm not against not saying it either, instead of just asking the question. That could just be my personality versus someone else, or maybe I just haven't learned to not do it. But either way, you were gonna say something?
I felt you had internalized it so well that it seemed to me, listening to it, that there was no way you were following a script. It was so natural.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make, is that practice makes perfect, right? And I talked about internalizing it in the sense that there's no hesitation. If I forget where I'm at in there, all I do is try to think, well, what is another good question to ask? But the questions that I'm asking are based on the answers that are given. Yes?
How do you balance presentation versus questions?
I think you digest the answers that you're given and understand, do I need to close faster for the appointment? Does he sound like he's ready to make a decision now? And he said 6 months. You know, he wasn't moving for 5 or 6 months. He also said that he was going to try it for a couple of months. So I wasn't going to go in for the appointment right then and there. I wanted to try to understand more information about what was important to him.
We did.
You know, he talked about communication was important. He talked about price was important. So I learned more information about what is important to him, and I'm writing notes down when I'm asking these questions too. So when I go meet face to face with Sammy, I'm going to repeat some of those things. Well, Sammy, I remember you said you were going to head down to Miami. So tell me about your job. What do you do? You know, I would learn more and start building rapport and finding out. You know, my notes say that your new job starts. You wanted to be there by Christmas. So what is your drop? I would probably go in a little more detail. What is your drop dead date that you need to leave by? So if you want to be there by Christmas, do you need to be closed by December 15th? And we can start backing out. Okay, so if you need to leave by then we probably need 30 to 60 days prior to that to have your house on the market. Does that make sense? Then you can start talking about the listing process. So you can get into a rapport, a deeper level conversation to help him understand what the listing's about. Yes?
So would you go even if you weren't going in the neighborhood that night?
The way I look at FSBOs, my goal every single day is to set at least one appointment. Okay? Whether it's a FSBO, an expired, a come list me call from a sphere of influence, a referral, whatever it is, my goal every single day is to get an appointment. Now, I personally focus on FSBOs that are close to where I live and close to where I work. That's me. I'm not calling FSBOs in Woodstock
Or Marietta or anything like that?
because it's too far.
Yeah.
You know, especially at 6 o'clock. I have 2 kids. I want to have dinner with my kids. I'm not going to go to Woodstock at 6 p.m. on a FSBO call. You know, so I focus a lot on FSBOs in and around the areas that I work and where I live. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask is because I never go unless they're ready to go, you know. That's why I was asking if that's pretty successful. I mean, I'm sure out of the 10 you go on, you probably get a few, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm about a 20% conversion rate.
Out of the people you're like, let me just stop by and say hello kind of thing.
Well, certainly I'm trying to dig into the information and trying to find out how motivated are they. That's why I asked you, you know. And so the more highly motivated, then yes, the more serious I am pushing for the listing sooner rather than later. Now, if it's something that is in my neighborhood, in my community, in my area, close to work, then yeah, I don't mind going on it and building that rapport
Yes,
and following up with them, even if it takes 3 to 4 to 6 months, because in the 5 days a week, there's gonna be some appointments that do take longer to digest, and some that are more, go get them right now and make them happen right away. That's my approach, yes.
So, yeah, so my question was, what's the odds of getting someone like, don't you kinda have to nurture them a little bit? Like, what's the
Well,
odds of getting someone?
What I was referring with Terrance is he was gonna go over there and just kinda shake his hand and get to know him a little bit, right?
Mhm.
I like call back, and I know Terrance does too, like, if they're really motivated,
Oh,
twice a week until I build that rapport that he's talking to, and then I'll go over
Oh,
there
got it.
and meet with them. And what he's talking about is going over there and just shaking
and
their
building
hands.
rapport, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just two different.
So what you do, if I hear you correctly, is that you will have a conversation on the phone, and if they're not motivated, you won't schedule the appointment. You will follow up with them until you feel like they are. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's right. If it's a good conversation,
Sure,
you know.
sure. There are different strategies. I know.
That's why I was asking about yours. I mean, I'm willing to do that. If,
Yeah. Well, it has to make sense, like I said, in terms of location and price. If it's $100,000, $150,000, I may not go on it right away. But if it's a good price point, and I've done the research on it to feel like this is a sellable house
Sure.
and a good price point and a good neighborhood, then yes, I will go on it, not knowing how motivated they are. I mean, Diana Kokoska talks about it takes 7 times to ask for the listing sometimes before you get it. So looking at it from the perspective of FSBOs, there is some follow-up that needs to take place, and we'll get into that shortly. Yet, for someone that's starting out, that doesn't have any business, it's a great way to get in front of people every single day. Then once you get better at it and you get better at your scripts and your learning curve gets to be higher, then you can decide, how did that conversation go? Was it worth me going on it? Or you can do like a qualifying script later. Hey, I'm like an hour or 2 hours before you go, you can go through a qualifying script and go through the notes and say, if you like what I have to say,
Feel comfortable and confident.
and you feel comfortable and confident that I can help you sell your house, will you list with me today? And if they hem and haw like, well, maybe, then it might be worth going on. Or if they say yes, then absolutely go on. If they say absolutely not, I'm not going to sign with you today, tomorrow, or next week, then you probably know it's not worth your time.
And you have to be careful too with that, because your service is not free. To do a comparative market analysis takes time, and for sale owners will do that, some of them, and you'll feel used and abused. By the time they go there, next thing you know, the listing's at the price that you had suggested, you know? So you have to be careful not to give away free
giving away the
information.
free, really? They say you're supposed to give, things of value. What are the values?
Have you looked at my notes?
No.
Because it's on there, and we'll get to that. in
I'm
just a
sorry,
second.
how do you feel about that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean
What's that? Well, I'll get into that in a minute, because I do
Okay.
have offer value is one of my
Okay.
steps here. So we just practice the script, do it every day, you'll get better, you'll know what to say, you'll internalize it, and you'll list more by practicing and
Okay.
going on.
Is it the same script for expireds as well, or? is it another
It's
script?
similar. I
Same
mean,
thing?
it's slightly different in the sense that, I noticed your house is no longer listed on the FMLS. When are you planning to hire the right agent to get the property
Gotcha.
sold?
Bingo.
And if they say, oh, we're gonna use the same agent, well, what do you think that agent might do differently this time than that they didn't do the first time? Isn't it worth 15 minutes of your time for me to show you what I can do to get homes sold? Great, I'll be there today at 5:30 or 7:30. It's a similar script.
Mm-hmm.
It's just slightly changing because they've come off the market, so they're no longer listed. Okay? So practice your scripts with a role play partner. Alright, so number 3. Set one appointment every single day. Commit to doing that from day one. commit to doing it daily, that you're going to practice your scripts and you're going to set one appointment every single day. Now let's say, for example, I'm here and I'm making phone calls and I'm not having a successful day for sell by owners. They're hanging up on me, they're telling me I'm never going to work with agents, blah, blah, blah. And I've made 100 phone calls and I've talked to 20 people, yet I haven't set an appointment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find a for sale by owner sign in the yard and I'm going to go knock on their door. I'm going to create an appointment, okay? So if you're not able to set an appointment over the phone, go knock on a door. Go find that for sale by owner that's in your neighborhood that you're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to go by there. I'm going to go by there today. I'm going to knock on the door and I'm going to put a name to the face and I'm going to tell them, what can I do to help you? Take this script and start asking them questions about it. I mean, are they going to slam the door in your face? Not likely.
Maybe.
I've never had that happen. Sammy, you got any personal experience on that?
I've never had that happen.
So let the goal be set one appointment every single day. If you do that, how many are you going to go on in a week?
5.
7.
And how many in a month? If you're working 7 days a week, 7. 5 days a week, 5. 25 at minimum. 20 to 25 appointments every single month.
That should be a conversion of about at least 1 or 2 listings.
Absolutely. Listen at you. If I said go out today and get me 1 or 2 listings next month, how does that sound? How does that feel?
Feels good.
Feels good?
Yeah.
For some people it might feel scary, like how am I going to do that? But if you break it down and you say, okay, you go on 1 appointment every single day, and you go on 22 to 25 appointments a month, and you're converting at a 10% rate, you're getting 2.2 to 2.5 listings a month, right?
So what would your phone call ratio be for how many phone calls are you doing per day?
It varies. I mean, day to day, it varies. Some days people are more receptive than others.
Okay.
And Sammy can give an example of that with expireds and FSBOs too. Sometimes I can set 2 appointments
Of course.
in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I can't set 1 appointment in 2 hours.
So you just gotta keep calling and going.
Yes.
So is it like a 20 to 100 call ratio?
The goal is 20 contacts a day.
Okay.
That's my
Still
goal.
the same.
20 a day,
But
100 a
Raymond
week.
said the same thing, so I just wanted to know if it matches with the FSBOs versus the sphere that
Sure.
you already.
Well, I know in Ignite it's 10 a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get in, you graduate Ignite, you're a new agent, there's so much to learn, you're having to get started, so you get comfortable with 10, and then you take Bold and you want to take your business to the next level, then you're jumping to 20 contacts a day. Okay? And once you get to that level, that ceiling becomes your new floor. And 20 becomes normal,
Yeah.
right? And then sometimes you're like, you know what, 20 is a piece of cake, I want to do 30 this week because I'm behind my numbers and I need to step it up a little bit. Maybe you're going to add a call block in the evening from 5 to 7. Maybe you're on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you're going to go door knock extra just because you're not on your numbers. Whatever it takes,
Get to those numbers.
create an appointment every single day. Okay? Alright, so here we're going to get to number 4 that we touched on briefly. Offer value. And I know Sammy was saying you got to be careful not to give too much information. And absolutely, I totally agree. Never do I go over to a for sale by owner with a CMA. I don't do it. First of all, I haven't seen their house. I've seen photos, but I haven't seen it in person. So I really don't know what the condition of the property is. So how can I give you a realistic valuation of the property if I've never seen it? Okay? So what are some things that you can think of that offer value to for sale by owners?
Well, one is you're gonna reach a broader market.
Well, in terms of marketing, yes. We can market your home, and instead of being a big fish in a little pond, you can be a big fish in a big ocean of potential buyers, right? So, sure. What's something else?
So you could like offer maybe like open house, like tips or like staging tips for the house, moving tips.
There's an agent, and I love that. Thank you for sharing that. There's an agent that I've known. He just recently moved from Birmingham to St. Louis. He would go to for sale by owners. His phone call was to them, I'm not here to list your house. I'm here to offer you something from my expertise. I want to hold your open house for you to help you sell your house. Is that offering value? So he's taking his time. He's basically saying, I'm going to hold an open house, not for my listing, not for an agent listing around the corner, not an agent in my office. I'm going to hold an open house for this for sale by owner. And you sign an agreement that says authorization to show unlisted property, because it's not actually in the FMLS. And he says, look, I'm here to help you win by trying to help you sell your house by marketing the home and attracting some buyers. The win for me is that I might pick up a buyer not only for your house, but maybe something else. So I'm trying to help you sell your house, but I'm also trying to earn business at the same time. So that's certainly, and that guy's been successful. And guess what? If you hold an open house and 10 to 20 people come through and you do a great job and you communicate, what do you think the chances are that seller's going to say, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and list my house?
Bingo.
What do you think the chances of that are? Certainly increases your chances. So that is definitely an opportunity. Holding an open house. What about staging tips? Taking a look at your house, I think it's great. The layout's wonderful. Are you open to some staging advice? And I'm not talking about let me bring in furniture and do this and that and totally change the look of it. I'm talking about basic staging tips.
Fresh paint or
Lightening and brightening. Changing light bulbs. Painting. Removing books from the shelf. Taking the pictures off the wall. I mean, just basic stuff. You know what? You could even bring a top 10 staging tips for sale by owners. You could create that yourself and name off some different topics about staging that you can share with them. Is that offering value?
yes.
Does it cost you anything?
Nope.
Does it give away your expertise in a negative way?
Nope.
It doesn't. It shows that you're professional, for one, that you have ideas and you say, when we stage the house, these are the basics that we go through, but when you hire me, we actually hire a consultant to come into the house for 2 hours, and they will give you a detailed list of what to do room by room by room. But you gotta hire me to do that. That's part of my 3%. It doesn't cost you extra, it's just part of the deal, right? So it gives you an opportunity to talk about what you do as an agent, why you're the professional, what you can do to help them sell. So staging tips. What about
Disclosure forms.
disclosures? Are you familiar with the disclosure forms that you'll need to share with the buyer? Some people are familiar, but then some people are like, what are you talking about? Oh, are you not aware of the liability that you're under as a for sale by owner without sharing and disclosing information about your house? Well, what do you mean? Yeah, I mean, if you sell a house and you don't disclose certain things about your house, you can be held liable and can be sued. I mean, I'm not saying have that conversation, but certainly sharing that information and saying, look, I'm willing to share these disclosure forms with you, totally fine. What about a contractor or vendor list? Say their gutters are overflowing with leaves and pine straw. Their deck needs a pressure wash. Does that cost you anything? If you can come across and offer value to them to say, look, here's what I think you should do to help you sell your house. These are the things that I would suggest to you, whether you're listing it yourself or we're listing the house. That's something that you can do. What if you follow up with them and send them a weekly pending report for their neighborhood? Hey, just checking in. Do you have any offers this weekend? No, I didn't have any offers. Well, that's too bad. I'm sorry about that. How was your open house? Well, it was kind of slow. Well, that's interesting. Are you aware that 3 houses went under contract this past weekend in your neighborhood? Well, no, I wasn't. So if you're the neighborhood expert and you're sharing that information with them, it lets them know you're watching, you know what's going on, you're the professional, and that they're missing out by not hiring you. So when I talk about offering value, I'm not talking about giving away trade secrets. I'm not talking about giving away CMAs. I'm not talking about giving them information that keeps you from getting the listing. I'm talking about teasing them with professional feedback where they want more. Well, I want more of that. Well, to hire me, you'll get more. Or to get more, you need to hire me. Okay? And these conversations sometimes are the first time you meet, and sometimes they're follow-up phone calls down the road too. What about a no hassle? Has anybody ever used a no hassle listing agreement? Does anybody know what that is? Can you guess what that is? I've taken this to FSBOs before. A no hassle listing agreement says I have a variable commission rate. If you list with me, the commission can be anywhere between 1 and 6%. How does that sound? Well, what do you mean? Well, let me show you. So, in a way to get listings, I'm not saying you go out and list for 1%. Not saying that. I'm saying you offer them value to show that you're willing to do certain things. If you say I'll list it for 1%, that means you put it on the market, you sign a listing agreement for 1%. If somebody comes that's not represented by an agent, a buyer comes, they're not represented by an agent, and the seller says, all I want you to do is write the contract. And by the way, it's that person that comes is somebody that they knew or looked at the house prior to you listing it. Okay, that's not a new buyer, that's an old buyer. Then you write the contract for 1%. Now, if you list it and a buyer comes that's unrepresented, you can do it for 3%. Because guess what? If you listed it for 6 and an agent brought the buyer, you're splitting it 3 and 3. Yet if you said, we'll list it and a buyer comes, they're not represented by an agent, we'll write the contract for 3 or 4 or 5%, whichever number you choose. Could that be enticing enough to want a for sale by owner to work with you? Is it still helping you grow your business and earn money?
So basically the lesser percentage is if there's a buyer that's not represented.
Not only that, but they were probably written into the contract with the seller, a buyer that had been in contact with the seller prior to you listing the property. Okay. So like they had it as a for sale by owner, and Joe Smith was a potential buyer and had communicated with the seller and said, hey, I might be interested, I'm just, they haven't worked out a deal yet. You listed on the FMLS, Joe Smith comes, he's not represented by an agent. Since he had prior contact with the seller, you're saying, look, I'm just gonna write the contract for 1%, that's it. So there's options like that you can consider. So that's a piece of value too. So think outside the box. What can you do that's not giving away your commissions necessarily, or your trade secrets, or your value as a professional agent, where you're missing out, but you're enticing them enough to say, hey, I want more of that. That sounds good to me.
But with that 1% as a listing agent, is there enough room for that 1%, that minimal percent to pay for everything, the listing?
Actually, the 1% is more or less not listing it on the market.
You're not doing anything.
No, you're
It's
not.
paperwork.
Buyer.
It's their buyer comes, and you say, look, I'll write that contract for you.
It's just based the bare minimum.
Yeah, you're just writing the contract.
Okay.
So you're not taking photos,
Like paperwork.
you're not marketing
I'm
it.
just doing the paperwork.
You're not,
Okay.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
You have to be very specific when you explain that to them
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
But I've got a form, if you guys are interested, email me and I can send that to you and show you what it looks like. Okay? So what do you think about that, Sammy? We talked about, you were like saying, be careful, don't offer CMAs. What do you think about the things that we just said there? Does that sound good?
That's fine. I mean, I would do it, but I'm different. You guys are new. He's right. You should do everything you can to be in front of people.
Whatever it takes, and this is
whatever it takes. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it takes. These are just ideas to help you list more FSBOs. Okay,
Yeah.
this isn't saying that you have to be like Sammy or like me. You have to figure out what's good for you. These are options. These will help. If you do these things, you will get more business.
And when you're new, you should definitely do these things. Get in front of people as much as you can.
Absolutely.
You know? The open houses for sale by owners is a good idea too. Excellent idea. Because if they're gonna list, and they all usually end up listing, they're gonna go with you.
Because you built rapport. They've seen how professional you are. They've seen how you operate, how you manage your business, and how you can take care of them, how you communicate.
When you do that though, make sure that the people you know for a fact that they're gonna want to sell eventually, that they're motivated sellers, that they're not just testing the market with an overpriced listing, you know.
Sure. So other things that you can do, you share your numbers. Share your numbers. I've sold X amount of houses, and when you say I or we, if you don't have the numbers yourself, use the office numbers. Use Keller Williams Peachtree Road numbers. If you're not sure what those are, ask Robin, ask James Farron. They'll give you those numbers. They'll let you know how many houses we've sold in the last 30 days, what our list sales price ratio is. Share with them how professional your office is. My office, this is what we do. Okay? Another thing you can share are the stats of the sold listings in the neighborhood in the sense of average days on the market. You don't have to give them all the information about sales price to ratio, list to sales price ratio, or, well, this house sold for X, it's like yours, but it's not. You can just say on average, houses in this neighborhood sell in 13 days. You've been on the market for 45 days. If you list with me, we can help you sell this house in less than 2 weeks. Does that sound good to you? So use stats, use information about the local market that shows you're an expert. All right, so number 5. Share the problem presentation. Does anybody know what the problem presentation is? It's okay if you don't, because I'll share it with you. So the problem presentation is, Mr. Seller, are you aware of the 4 types of buyers that exist? Well, no, I'm not. Well, there are 4 types of buyers for your house. And so number 1, you have qualified buyers that have been approved by a lender, and they're working with an agent. Those are the kind of buyers that we want, right? And when you list with me, that's how we help find you those qualified buyers. Because you know what? Agents that are working with buyers, they look for listings that are in the FMLS. They don't look on Zillow and click on the button that says for sale by owners. They've trained their buyers not to look at for sale by owners because they're looking at listings in the FMLS. So when you list with me, that's the kind of buyers that we're going to be marketing to and for to get you the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Number 2, you have buyers that are qualified, but they're not ready. They haven't signed on with an agent. They're just kind of testing the waters. Maybe they don't need to move, or maybe they're waiting to move until the end of the summer, or at the end of school in the summer time frame. Maybe they're waiting a little bit more for a down payment to buy a bigger home. Maybe they're waiting because of a job transfer. So those buyers are looking, but they're not ready to buy. The number 3 are your looky-loo neighbors. Those are the people that are stealing your flyers from your for sale by owner signs that you don't have any more flyers on. Those are your nosy neighbors that are just looking and trying to see what's up with your house and how much you're trying to sell it for. And then number 4, you probably received a lot of these phone calls already. You probably received a lot of phone calls from investors, haven't you? They're willing to pay pennies on the dollar for your home. So they're offering a minimum of 30 to 40% less than what you're looking to get. So do you understand the 4 types of buyers that are out there? Why don't let's do the right thing and hire me so we can help focus on that number 1 pool of buyers that are ready, willing, and able, and have agents that are looking for houses like yours. So that's the problem presentation. Any questions on that? Okay. Number 6, weekly follow-up. I know, Sammy, this may not sound good to you. I know you do things a little bit differently, but my experience, for sale by owners, take weekly follow-up.
No, I do that. I mean, but for sale by owners are all follow-up.
Absolutely. And when I say follow-up, I mean by phone call, via email, via text.
Video message.
Whatever, I mean, if you leave a message, send an email. If you don't get an email response, send a text. I would vary your follow-up methods because you never know which way they might respond. And some questions when I talk to for sale by owners, I say, okay, great. If you're not ready, no problem. I will follow up with you next week and check in. Usually they say, okay, fine, no problem. So then I follow up, hey, how did your weekend go? I noticed you had an open house. Did you get any offers? No? Man, that's too bad. So is your motivation still kind of a 6, or has your motivation changed at all since we last talked? Are you ready to hire me to help you? No, not quite yet. Okay, no problem. Well, I tell you what, I will follow up with you next Tuesday. Let them know you're going to follow up with them, and then follow up next Tuesday. Hey, Sammy, I'm just following up like I said I would. It's Tuesday. I'm just following up how things are going.
Do you ever get them that say, I just want you to leave me alone? I'm just not gonna use an agent. That's the bottom line. I'm just not gonna use one.
Rarely. I mean, sometimes. Sometimes there'll be an excuse. Hey, I'm going to use my brother who's an agent, so don't call me. Okay, fine.
But you still follow up?
It depends. It depends on where I'm at in the process, or if I feel like, are they just telling me that so I'll go away, or are they really telling me and that's the truth?
You can say that too. You're not just telling me that. You're not just not pulling my leg, are you?
Yeah. I mean,
it's just a conversation.
Yeah. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because sometimes they'll say things just to get you off the phone, right? How many times when a telemarketer calls you, you're like, I'm in a meeting, I'm on the other line, even though you're not, or whatever. I mean, sometimes they'll do that. So what does it hurt to say, are you just pulling my leg? Are you really being serious? Does your brother really sell real estate? If he does he sell real estate in Brookhaven or Rome, Georgia?
You'll get that a lot, by the way. My brother, my sister. Say, man, everybody has a friend who's a real estate agent. Doesn't mean they're the best, does it?
Right. Or are they as good as me? How do you know they're as good as me? How do you know they're not as good as me?
Yeah, it's just a conversation. Today she said I'm going to go with my brother-in-law. I said, well, what happens if there's complications and he does a bad job? Next thing you know, you're getting a weird stare at the Thanksgiving table. And she started laughing, And she goes, okay, you can call me on the 30th. I said, yeah, it's just a conversation. It's just people.
I know. I appreciate you sharing that, because it is. Don't take what they say negatively. Talk back to them. Make a joke. Crack a joke about it. Yes.
So do you call the FSBOs on Zillow when they write up? They'll say, agents do not call. Like, we're not talking to agents. Do you still call?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. Don't see, because they've already thrown
Weed
you
it
off.
out. Yeah.
They've already thrown you off, right? They've already said, don't do it. Not going to listen to it. And if you call and say, didn't you read my thing? Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't, because I was intrigued by your house. So I was calling to see, what can I do to help you? And you can say anything. You can say, yeah, I understand, and then ask another question. You don't have to take it so seriously and be like, okay, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm not going to bother you anymore. Yes?
What about investors? Do you work with any FSBO investors? I have a couple of FSBO investors that I'm following up with. What is your thoughts on that?
Help me understand, or tell me more about what do you mean.
Like, there's some investor properties listed online for FSBOs, and a lot of them work with a lot of agents, and I don't know. And some of them, like one of them that I was speaking with this week, he's like, well, yeah, I'm what did he say? It was a verbiage he's used, like, I'll pay the agent 3% if they find me a buyer type of thing, but we're not going to officially, do the deal, like list, like. So
I think I would just ask more questions and dig a little bit deeper. Well, tell me more about that. Why would you not want to work with an agent?
With investors, it's all about money. You just say, what if it makes financial sense, man? Dollars and cents more in your pocket.
So you work with some?
Does it hurt?
Listed some with investors before?
Well, yeah,
an investor is great.
I mean,
they list houses.
Investors buy and sell houses all the time. They buy and hold, and then they renovate them, and they fix them, and they sell them. So yeah, there's plenty of money to make. working with investors. I think you just need to be able to ask more questions and dig a little bit deeper and just be like, well, if it makes sense to you, if you can make more money by selling with me, why would you not want to do that?
Yeah, dollars and cents with investors. That's a great line, by the way, man. If you're having a hard time with a FSBO, this is your go-to line. Like, what if it makes financial sense? You know, more money in your pocket. How can you argue with that? And you can say that answer to anything. Like, and it's a big. What if it made financial sense? You know? Yeah, that's all I care about, man. It's the money, you know. Sorry, Terrance.
You heading out?
Yeah, I gotta make a phone call, but I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah.
It's really good.
All right, cool. Thanks for sharing. All right, so weekly follow-up. And then number 7 here, lastly, don't forget to ask for the listing. Okay? Never in this conversation, in this FSBO script, did I say, I only work with buyers and I'm not here to help you sell your house. The purpose of the phone call and the purpose of getting in front of them is to list their house. You may not be saying that with the sign, list with me now or I won't talk to you anymore. You're not saying that in flashing red lights. You're saying, what can I do to help you? And you're showing value. You're talking to them, you're giving them information, you're sharing your professional attitude, you're showing them why they should be working with you, why they should be listing with you. So don't forget to ask for the listing. Well, if it makes sense what I have to say, and you feel like and you're comfortable and confident that I can help you sell your house for the most amount of money, will you list with me? Even if they say no, well, I understand that. Well, my goal is to help you understand what I do to help people sell houses so that you will. Yes?
How do you vary all of the script work with new agents that don't have, track record, depth of experience, and all that sort of thing?
Well, as I said earlier, in terms of numbers and sharing your stats, lean on the office. Talk to James or talk to Robin and say, look, I want some numbers about Keller Williams Peachtree Road. How many houses do we sell a month? What is our average list to sales price ratio? What is the volume, the gross volume that we put under contract last month? And you can probably break it down and say, we sold a house here in Keller Williams Peachtree Road every 4 hours last month. Do you want an agent in an office that sells a house every 4 hours? That's so good at what they do, we sell a house every 4 hours. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but if you don't have your own numbers, then lean on the office. The office, this is a top 5 Keller Williams office in all of North America. Not just Atlanta. Number 1 Keller Williams office in Atlanta. If we're not top 5, it's like top 7 of all of Keller Williams, this office right here. We sell over $1 billion of real estate every single year. Lean on this office. There's stats in here that will blow people away. We have so much market share here in Brookhaven. I mean, if you're focusing on Brookhaven or whatever city it is, there's ways to have the staff, the office staff, help you pull that information out and show your sellers, FSBOs or expireds or whoever, what this office does and why they should be working with this office versus somebody else. Does that make sense? All right, so we went over a little bit over an hour. Another thing I was going to add about asking for the listing, if they say, I don't want to get into a long listing period, why not give me 30 days? What's it going to hurt? Give me 30 days to market your house and see what we can do, show you what we can do to help you sell it. You get that mindset. I mean, if you've talked to them and you've asked for the business every single time, and why don't you just give me 30 days? Let us show you what we can do. The chances are you're going to end up selling the house. Even if it goes over 30 days, guess what? They're not going to say, I don't want to use you. They're going to say, well, since you've already got it listed, let's just keep selling it. Okay? Use that no hassle listing agreement. If you're interested in that, email me and I'll send it to you. Just type in no hassle listing agreement. Email me at terrance@mayorealtygroup.com and I will send you a copy. And use it. Use it for your reference. All right. Give me an aha. Anything that you guys learned today that was something that you feel you can put into practice tomorrow? Yes.
Practice and no hassle free.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. Practice daily and put in the no hassle listing.
Sorry, you also wanna give too.
That's all right. It's okay.
I think I'm gonna start offering to hold their house open.
Yeah, that's not
This
bad.
lady, this FSBO that I called last week, she hurt her back.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, well, since you're out and down, let me just
Yeah.
come on in and I can hold the house open for you while you get recovered.
Yeah, why not? I mean, if it's a good location and you feel like you can market it and put and advertise it in the sense to gain traffic, why not? And what's the worst thing that happens? You pick up a buyer off of it. Would that hurt your business?
Not at all.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Best case scenario, you sell the house and pick up a buyer, and that seller says, you know what? I want to buy something else. Then you pick up 3 pieces of business off of one FSBO open house. It happens. Trust me, it happens.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anu.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
Have a great weekend, all of you.
All right, same to you. Thank you.
And then, of course, number 3, just making sure you get an appointment daily, period.
If you focus on this right here, you will be a mega agent in no time.
Yep, just that's the goal, because I was having trouble with doing the numbers, like, all right, how many phone calls do I need to make? How many list appointments I need for the week? So that all of that can convert in 30 days to a closing. How many closings is all of that? How much activity do I have to do for my conversion ratio to be up? It's like, so I didn't know, I was having trouble with aligning that, but it just makes so much more sense.
It's simple. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Obviously,
It's not easy.
Nothing worth it is easy, but it's like it's a numbers game, just like any other sales. I mean, I was a life insurance agent back in my home in Jersey. I'm from Jersey.
Mhm.
I did so well with that, but I was doing like 50 to 100 calls a day, a night, and I did so well. So well.
You had a taste of it in a different field.
In a different field,
but it's the same thing. It
It's a numbers
translates to
game.
real estate in the same way.
Yeah.
It's all about who are you talking to, what are you saying, are you saying it to enough people?
Right.
And if you're not, then what are you going to do about it?
My lead and then I was getting overwhelmed a little bit with lead generation, and I'm gonna show you something when the class is over. I have something really good that I'm working on, and I think it's gonna be a really good marketing, bait.
Yeah, sure.
But, I was having trouble with trying to see what system I'm gonna use, because there's so many strategies, and a realtor will tell you this, and they do this, but it's like so many, you can't keep up with all of them, so Tom Ferry's like, narrow it down to like 1 to 2 things you're just gonna do consistently,
Exactly.
not like all 7, 8, 9
No.
different scenarios.
No. Habit stacking, I've heard this concept and people have talked about habit stacking. I mean, focus on one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Gary Keller talks about the one thing, the most important thing you can do in real estate is lead generate.
Right.
So master lead generation, and because if you can master that, you're going to have appointments to go on. And if you go on enough appointments, you're going to sign enough buyer brokerage agreements, you're going to sign enough listings to run a business, to build a business.
So did you concentrate on only FSBOs, or did you also exhaust your sphere of influence?
What I've been able to do, I started with for sale by owners. I moved back to Atlanta from California, so I had been away for like 12 or 13 years. So my database of people here was very small.
So for example, mine is huge.
Okay.
I've just retired from being in education in 30 years.
Yeah.
14 here in the Buckhead area and 16 in Cobb County where I live.
Yep.
So my sphere of influence is huge.
Sure.
So I'm trying to decide. Well, I closed 15 houses in the last year,
It's awesome.
And this is my first year, and I did it part-time because I was, still in my last year in school. But I'm trying to decide what would be more lucrative for me, is my sphere of influence, or focusing on something like this, or doing a combination of both, or.
If your sphere of influence is large, and I say anything over 500, I would feed that database as much as possible. And what I mean by that is I would communicate with them, I would email them, I would send newsletters to them, let all those people know, hey, I retired from teaching, I'm a full-time real estate agent right now. Who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling that I could call today? Because all those people know you, Frida.
Yeah.
And they're willing to help you, right? There are people that.
I had one call yesterday that's possibly 3. She said, I've got a friend that's ready to sell and then buy.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, and you know the rental property that we have in Chamblee? We're thinking about getting out of the rental business. I'm like, boom! And that was one call yesterday. Of course, I hadn't gotten anything out of it yet.
Well, that's awesome.
But I followed up with a written letter.
Yes.
And I'm going to follow up next week, and I'm going to send an email to my friend that asked her to forward it to her friend, because I didn't get that she didn't give me that contact.
Right. Absolutely. If your sphere of influence is 500 or more, there is business in there waiting for you. Mm-hmm. It's there. You have to go and cover it. And it's just having conversations. I mean, if you started full time now, then I would make a point. Have a good one. Thanks for showing. I would, if you can categorize your database into 2 letters. If you can get through 2 letters a week, in 13 weeks, you will have gotten through A to Z. Okay? So basically, every quarter, you can get through your database at least once. That means 4 times a year, you're talking to your database on the phone. If you're interested in knowing which 2 letters to break it out to, I can email you that.
Okay.
It's called Doing the Database 2, is what it's called. If your database is so large, you
Doing
need
the database 2 as in
the number 2.
T-O-O or
No, the number 2.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying you're calling 2 letters of your database every single week.
Okay.
So like, for example, B and E. The first week, it's B and E. You call every last name that starts with B and every last name that starts with E that week. And then D and O. Then H and V. So I mean, I can send you the numbers, or the letters, I should say. If it's that big, especially when you're first starting out, your focus should be on your database. Now for me, my database was relatively small. I mean, it was probably like 100 people maybe if I was stretching it. So that's why I did for sale by owners. And I got good at it, and so I've stuck to it. Now I'm incorporating my database to every Friday. So that's my lead generation strategy. Every day is a little bit different. Friday is my database 2 strategy. So I'm calling my database every Friday, but it's those 2 letters on Fridays. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but for you, I don't know if it's 1,000 or 2,000 or however many it is, if you can somehow break it down into those letters and then call all of those people for that week for those 2 letters, there's business waiting for you in there. You just got to go find it. You've got to dig it out.
Yeah.
So in that case, I would say continue to focus on your database. Okay? All right, well, thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate it. That was fun. I hope you got something out of it.
That was great. Thank you.
And any questions, you guys can call me or email me.
Well, I live in Marietta,